Imagine a world where the bonds of old friendships shatter and allies turn into bitter enemies. They engage in a shadowy war that occasionally escalates into direct, terrifying conflict. This isn't some fictional drama, it's the stark reality of the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. For decades, their animosity lay dormant, but recent events have pushed them to an extreme brink. Direct missile exchanges, assassinations, and cyber attacks are redefining the Middle Eastern landscape. Did you know that Iran was once among the second Muslim majority countries to recognize Israel, and they maintained close diplomatic, economic, and military ties? How did this astonishing alliance transform into an existential rivalry that now threatens global stability? Today, we'll unravel this complex history, show who stands with whom, assess their military might, and explain why an end to this conflict seems so distant. This dramatic shift from once close allies highlights the depth and historical irony of this conflict, leaving us all to ask, how did we get here? From allies to bitter enemies, a shared history, a divided path. Pre-1979 alliance, the Shah's era. Under the Pahlavi dynasty from 1925 to 1979, Iran and Israel maintained a strong, though often discreet, relationship. After Israel's establishment in 1948, Iran was the second Muslim majority nation to recognize it. This alliance was driven by Israel's periphery doctrine, which sought non-Arab allies like Iran, Turkey, and Ethiopia to counter pan-Arab nationalism in the Middle East. Their cooperation included extensive trade, with Iran supplying oil to Israel. There was also broad covert military and security collaboration, including arms sales from Israel to Iran and intelligence sharing related to Iraq. The Shah prioritized alliances, security, and trade over Palestinian concerns. However, this strategic alliance ultimately relied on a regime that was overthrown by a revolutionary movement whose ideological foundation was anti-Zionism. The seismic shift of 1979, the Islamic Revolution. The 1979 Islamic Revolution, led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, brought about a fundamental change in Iran's foreign policy. Khomeini's new worldview championed Islam, opposed the arrogant global powers, the US, Britain, Israel, and primarily supported the Palestinian cause. Iran immediately withdrew its recognition of Israel, severed all diplomatic, commercial, and other ties, and handed over the Israeli embassy in Tehran to the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO. Israel was labeled the Zionist regime, enemy of Islam, and the Little Satan. These symbolic actions weren't just policy changes. They established anti-Zionism as a core ideological principle for the new Islamic Republic. This enmity wasn't merely due to the Shah's Western connections. It was a fundamental, revolutionary rejection of Israel's existence within the new regime's Islamic and anti-imperialist worldview, becoming a cornerstone of Iran's identity. Ideological conflict: Zionism versus the Islamic Revolution. The Islamic Revolution's anti-Zionist stance. Iran's Islamic Revolution adopted a fierce opposition to Israel, viewing it as a colonial outpost and an illegitimate state. This animosity is deeply embedded in the revolution's ideology. Leaders like Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini and Ali Khamenei consistently depicted Israel as a cancerous tumor that must be eradicated and a tool of Western imperialism. The commitment to eradicating Israel is viewed as an Islamic duty. This ideological framework, which blends anti-Zionism with a broader anti-imperialist narrative and embraces Palestinian solidarity as a core tenet, transformed the conflict from a mere geopolitical rivalry into an ideological crusade. This makes de-escalation extremely difficult. as recognizing Israel's existence is considered contrary to the fundamental principles of the regime. Evolution from ideology to strategy. While rooted in ideology, Iran's animosity toward Israel has evolved into a strategic rivalry. Iran has intensified its activities near and within Israel's borders. Its aim is to besiege Israel and undermine its security. This shift is driven by the advancement of Iran's nuclear program, Israel's countermeasures, and Israeli politicians advocating for military action against Iran. In other words, Iran's actions are not solely ideological but also a response to geostrategic shifts and Israeli policy. Web of influence, allies, proxies, and regional alignment. Iran's axis of resistance. For over 4 decades, Iran has built and supported a network of militant proxy groups known as the Axis of Resistance. This informal alliance aims to counter US and Israeli influence in the Middle East. This axis allows Iran to exert pressure on Israel and the US and expand its regional influence while avoiding direct state-to-state conflict. Its key components include Hezbollah in Lebanon, arguably the most powerful, receiving most of its funding, training, and weaponry from Iran. Hamas. Iran has provided assistance to this Sunni Islamist Palestinian group for decades. The Houthis, Ansar Allah, in Yemen. Iran has increased its support since 2014-2015, including ballistic and cruise missiles. Iraqi Shiite militias. Groups like Kataib Hezbollah, Harakat al-Nujaba, and Asaib Ahl-al-Haq have attacked US forces in Iraq and Syria. Weaknesses of the Axis. Recent Israeli attacks have significantly weakened the Axis of Resistance. Hamas's military capabilities have been decimated. Hezbollah has been targeted with strikes that have led to the loss of many of its leaders, and the fall of the Assad regime in Syria, which was a logistical linchpin, has further disrupted the network. Israel's allies and regional alignment. United States, a steadfast ally providing significant military support and assistance to Israel. Emerging Arab-Israel Alliance Sunni Axis, a security alliance comprising Israel and various Arab nations, Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, UAE, has emerged, primarily aimed at countering Iran's ambitions. This alliance was formalized by the Abraham Accords in 2020. The weakening of Iran's axis of resistance and the rise of a Sunni-Israeli alliance indicate a potential shift in the regional balance of power. Israel's strategy of dismantling Iran's network of regional allies appears to be yielding results. This shift is forcing Iran to re-evaluate its resistance strategies, which could lead to a more direct confrontation rather than relying on proxy-based conflict. Military balance, strength, technology, and vulnerabilities. Overall military strength. According to the Global Firepower Index 2025, the United States ranks honest globally. Israel ranks 15th and Iran is 16th. While numerically close, Israel's forces are battle-hardened and benefit from advanced technology and US support. Personnel and defense budget. Iran has a population of approximately 88 million and a large standing army, 610, zero active troops. Israel, with a population of about 9 million, has a significant number of troops, 170, zero active duty forces. In 2023, Iran's defense budget was around 10 billion, with a planned 200% threefold increase for 2025. Israel's defense spending in 2023 was approximately 27.5 billion. Its Ministry of Defense budget for 2025 is projected to be around 30 billion. Iran's 200% military budget increase for 2025 signals a strategic shift to bolster its conventional and unconventional capabilities. Nuclear capabilities. Iran is a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT) and claims its program is peaceful. However, the UN's nuclear watchdog has warned that Iran has enough near-weapon-grade uranium enriched to build several nuclear bombs. Western countries assess that Iran had an organized nuclear weapons program until 2003. Israel views a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. Israel is widely believed to be the only nuclear-armed state in the Middle East, though it has never admitted to possessing such weapons. Key military technologies and advancements. Israel. Air defense. Israel boasts a multi-tiered missile defense system, including the well-known Iron Dome short-range and David Sling medium-range, capable of detecting and intercepting incoming attacks. Laser weapons. Hellwoods. Israel is deploying high-energy laser weapons like Light Beam and Iron Beam. These offer low-cost power engagement and unlimited magazine capacity, disrupting the economic asymmetry of warfare. Stealth fighters. The F-35I Adir stealth fighter played a crucial role in Operation Rising Lion, June 2025, conducting deep penetration missions, precision strikes on nuclear infrastructure and military leadership, and seed suppression of enemy air defenses operations against advanced air defenses.
পারমাণবিক সক্ষমতা
Domestic defense industry. Israel possesses a robust domestic defense industry capable of designing, manufacturing, and maintaining a full range of weaponry. Iran. Missiles and drones. Iran emphasizes strong missile capabilities and regional influence through allied groups. It has developed advanced drones with long operational radii and payload capacities. Iran also possesses a large underground ballistic missile base. Air defense. Iran received the S-300 air defense system from Russia in 2016 and has developed indigenous air defense systems over the last decade. However, these systems proved vulnerable against Israeli attacks in October 2024. Naval capabilities. The IRGC Navy operates heavily armed speedboats, coastal missile batteries, sea mines, drones, and explosive-laden unmanned surface vessels (USVs), unmanned underwater vessels (UUVs). Vulnerabilities. Iran has weaknesses in air defense and air superiority against Israel's proven regional air dominance. It remains reliant on proxies. Recent Israeli attacks have significantly reduced Iran's retaliatory missile capabilities. While Iran is numerically larger in terms of military personnel, Israel's technological superiority, F-35I, health, multi-tiered air defense, and its robust domestic defense industry, significantly augmented by unwavering U.S. support, give it a decisive military edge, especially in deep offensive strikes and air superiority. Escalation points. Why the conflict is burning. Iran's nuclear program. Israel views Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat. Netanyahu has long cited it as Iran's biggest threat. Israel has repeatedly conducted covert attacks on Iran's nuclear program, including cyber attacks and assassinations of nuclear scientists. In June 2025, Operation Rising Lion, Israel launched unprecedented and extensive attacks on key Iranian nuclear targets, ballistic missile factories, military commanders, and energy infrastructure. These attacks aimed to create a long-term impediment by removing expertise and resources. Shadow War to Direct Conflict 2024-2025 Escalation. In 2024-2025, the conflict escalated into direct clashes, breaking long-standing taboos. This shift signals a dangerous escalation driven by Israel's fear of a nuclear threat and retaliatory actions against targeted attacks on Iran's leadership. It indicates a breakdown of previous deterrence norms. April 2024. An Israeli bombing of the Iranian consulate in Damascus killed senior Iranian officials. Iran retaliated with an unprecedented missile and drone attack on Israel. Israel responded with a suspected strike on Isfahan. July-October 2024. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, Hezbollah commander Fuad Shukr, and later Hassan Nasrallah and Hashem Safieddin, Hezbollah leaders, were killed in Israeli airstrikes, prompting promises of retaliation from Iran and Hezbollah. Iran launched a second direct missile attack on Israel in October 2024. Israel then publicly attacked Iran for the first time, hitting air defense systems and sites associated with its missile program. June 2025, Operation Rising Lion. Israel launched unprecedented and extensive attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities, ballistic missile factories, military commanders, and energy infrastructure, South Pars gas field. These attacks killed top generals and nuclear scientists. Iran retaliated with ballistic missiles and drones, though most were intercepted. This shift from shadow warfare to direct, open military confrontation signals a dangerous escalation. Israel's perception of Iran's nuclear program as an existential threat and a retaliatory strategy of targeting Iranian leadership have driven this change. This dynamic increases the risk of miscalculation, unintended escalation, and a broader regional war as both sides feel compelled to respond forcefully. Impact: economic and geopolitical consequences. Economic impact: energy markets. Conflicts in the Middle East drive up oil prices due to fears of supply restrictions and potential blockades in crucial maritime routes like the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of global oil trade, and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Inflation. Higher energy prices increase the cost of various goods, fueling global inflationary pressures. Supply chains. Longer shipping times reduce global capacity, creating ripple effects across global transportation networks and supply chains. The economic repercussions of the Israel-Iran conflict, particularly on global energy prices and shipping routes, underscore the interconnectedness of the global system. Regional geopolitical tensions can impose tangible economic burdens directly on consumers worldwide, affecting inflation and economic growth far beyond the Middle East. Geopolitical impact. Regional instability. This conflict increases the risk of regional instability, with Central Asian governments expressing concern and advocating for de-escalation. Alliance realignment. Israeli attacks could lead to profound shifts in regional alignments. They might strengthen the Sunni axis, Gulf states moving closer to Israel, and solidify the Shiite axis, Iran is strengthening ties with its allies and seeking new partners. Nuclear proliferation. This conflict raises significant questions about regional nuclear proliferation, potentially leading to an arms race as other nations might develop their own nuclear programs. External power influence. The escalating conflict could push Central Asian governments into difficult diplomatic positions, increasing the influence of major powers like Russia and China. Normalization process halted. The Gaza war, and by extension the broader Iran-Israel conflict, has stalled the US-sponsored Saudi-Israel normalization process, which Iran feared could undermine its regional standing. This conflict is not just a bilateral struggle, it's a catalyst for a larger regional realignment. It is potentially solidifying a new Sunni-Israeli alliance against a Shiite axis and accelerating nuclear proliferation. It is transforming the Middle East's geopolitical landscape and raising the risk of a broader multi-front war. An unpredictable future, paths and perils. Risk of escalation. The conflict remains highly volatile, with both sides willing to take direct military action. In response to Israeli attacks, Iran could threaten international maritime security. The prisoner's dilemma dynamic suggests that while cooperation is optimal, escalation might seem rational for individual actors. Direct military action and the breakdown of traditional deterrence norms indicate that the conflict is entering a new, more dangerous phase where the risks of miscalculation and unintended escalation have increased. This could potentially draw in major global powers, even though they've expressed a desire for de-escalation. Challenges to de-escalation. Iranian officials have stated that they will not return to US-Iran nuclear talks until Israel stops its attacks and Iran concludes its retaliatory strikes. Deeply rooted ideological animosity makes fundamental reconciliation difficult. Conclusion. In summary, the core drivers of the Israel-Iran conflict are ideological animosity and strategic competition for regional dominance. This means that even if temporary de-escalation occurs, the fundamental causes of the conflict will persist, leading to long-term tensions and periodic clashes unless a profound ideological or political transformation occurs within Iran. This suggests that the conflict is not merely a transient geopolitical struggle but a deeply rooted long-term rivalry. Where do you think the future of this conflict in the Middle East is headed? What are your thoughts?